still not crazy about the lighting situation. I think I'm going to set up a lamp over here. That's a later thought. Oh well. Anyway, I'm finally getting around to do that Bioshock review. I cannot believe it's the last Saturday of the month already. I don't know how people do these monthly video shows of reviews, video games and stuff like that. This is hard. But hey, you're not going to get anywhere as long as you're not getting anywhere, right? Anyway, when Bioshock first came out, everybody was just so crazy about how they invented a thinking person shooter, and they just were so impressed with this world of Rapture. So, but I just never really caught on to the world that it was built. In fact, when I first played it, I was downright offended by it.
It's just a video game.
What didn't you like?
I'll get to that in a bit, but first, plot in a sentence. Escape from the failed utopian city of Rapture while dealing with genetically altered maniacs.
Wow, you used a proper sentence.
Moving on. But anyway, the main character's name is Jack, and that's kind of fitting because by the end of the game, Jack's shit is pretty much all we know about the guy.
There is a bit of a spoiler reason for that though.
Yes, but once we get to the everything you know is a lie part of this story, we really don't know anything about the guy, so it's not that much of a shock.
Bioshock.
Anyway, by the end of the game, all we really know about the guy is that he survived a plane crash and he swam into a lighthouse.
There are the radio clips that you can find that flesh out the story.
If you want to go out looking for them, and some of them are really well hidden, they do flesh out the story, but if you just want to go straight through and go right into the front to back, go through the story, I doubt you'd even know the main character's name.
Well, if you miss some, you could look them up online.
This isn't a review of the Wikipedia page.
So you missed most of the game. That's great.
Hey, I've played through this game for like 3 or 4 times. If I missed anything, it's the fault of the developers, not mine. Anyway, when he makes his way through the lighthouse down into the city of Rapture, he's contacted by this guy on the radio named Atlas.
Why is he called that? I hate you.
I know, but basically Atlas wants you to help him get his family out of the fallen city. They had discovered a way to give people superpowers, but since there were no laws, the whole city just kind of went to anarchy.
Wait, there weren't any laws?
The founder of the city, Andrew Ryan, wanted to make a perfect society, so he developed this underwater city where the normal rules of society don't apply. So scientists and creative artists and all the creative people can just create in any form that they wanted, or more accurately, any way that he wanted them to allow it.
And there's the trick.
Indeed. Andrew Ryan kind of developed the city so people can find the limits of their ambitions. But there was this one guy named Frank Fontaine who really started to gather more and more of the influence in the city than Andrew Ryan wanted to deal with. So eventually Ryan sent out his splicers to deal with Fontaine, and it just kind of devolved into a giant civil war. Yeah, there's really just 4 kind of enemy types for the normal human types. There's the thuggish splicers, which, as far as I can tell, don't really have any powers. They just kind of yell and run at you holding a wrench or a lead pipe or something and scream and yelling at, trying to bash you in with a pipe or a wrench. There's the leadhead splicers. They also don't seem to show any kind of powers or abilities. But they have guns. Mostly shotguns. Not shotguns, but actually pistols. Some of them have assault rifles. But again, it's not that crazy. They're just guys running around screaming with guns, or pistols and assault rifles. That sounds like it'd be crazy, but they're kind of boring. There's There's also the so-called spider splicers, which actually do have a power. They climb on the walls and on the ceilings and stuff, and then throw knives at you. But they're also not that hard to deal with because they're also screaming their heads off. All the enemies in the city are just screaming their heads off all the whole time. Maybe that's the power they got, is everybody just got insane screaming abilities. So the fourth human splicer you deal with is called the Houdini splicer, and they just teleport around the area throwing grenades.
That sounds annoying as hell.
All the powers that you unlock and are in the game are the result of genetic splicing. That's why the enemies are called splicers.
That doesn't seem possible.
Well, it is a video game. The way it works was this lady called Bridget Tenenbaum had discovered this chemical called Adam she developed from a sea slug, and she just kind of warped all of the human genetic code so you can like throw lightning bolts and fireballs and all the magic kind of stuff that you do in the game. Yeah, this game is from the early 2000s where genetics was used kind of like radiation was used back in the 1950s in a video game and old comic.
The game takes place in the 50s. They could have just used radiation to explain everything.
It wouldn't have been fashionable, I guess. But Tenenbaum had discovered that the sea slug that created the so-called Adam, it couldn't produce enough for the needs of the city. So she had them implanted into little girls called Little Sisters.
What the hell?
Not only could the Little Sisters grow more Adam in their bodies, they could also go around collecting more Adam from the dead bodies that are littering the city.
Well, that's creepy as hell.
Yeah. And there was also a little morality choice to whether, whenever you came across one, whether you could save her or harvest her or just let her run wild.
Is it worth it?
I'll get to that in a little bit.
They sound like a bunch of walking targets.
They were a little bit of a challenge to get to, though. They were each one of them had a guardian known as a Big Daddy, and unfortunately they only came in two varieties, but they were really kind of cool people. The Big Daddies, they come in two variants. The first one is known as the bouncer. They have a giant drill as their right hand. They don't really have a range attack, but if you start engaging with them and shooting at them, they'll kind of put their shoulder down and slide at you across the room. And it's really exciting to see something like the giant hulk of a creature just sliding at you with their giant drill as a hand.
You have issues.
The other kind of Big Daddy is called the Rosie. And this one is different in the fact that the Rosie Big Daddy has a rivet gun that she actually has a range attack with.
Sounds like that one is the real threat.
I really wouldn't underestimate either one of them. Both of them are quite capable of curb stopping you without hesitation. But yeah, I can see how the bouncer got on the cover art, though. The Big Daddies, they're even though there's several in each level, and they respawn, and if you want to engage with them, you can. But I really don't have a lot of fun fighting the splicers. It's a lot more fun fighting the Big Daddies. The splicers are just idiots running around the room screaming their heads off. Eventually you can wear them down. I'm pretty sure they respawn after a while, but Eventually, they just wear down to white noise.
White noise that is throwing grenades at you.
You'd be surprised what would fade back into the background when it comes to just crossing a room, and that really gets me down to the cons of the game. Just the lack of variety in the enemies.
What about all of the other games where you fight normal humans the entire time?
Not really crazy about those kind of games either, but supposedly everybody in Rapture are going crazy and just trying to get to the little sisters so they get more atoms, so they get more extreme powers. But the only people with powers are the Houdini splicers and the spider slicers. Spider splicers. That's not easy to say. But the Houdini splicers and the spider slicers are the only people with powers.
Well, do you really want people to be throwing lightning bolts and fireballs at you?
And that kind of leads me to another con of the game. You're pretty much a walking eggshell the entire time of the game.
Are you sure you don't just suck at the game?
I'll admit that I don't take the amount of time that I probably could have to get used to the control scheme. Basically, you pull the right trigger to shoot your gun, and you pull the left trigger to use your magic abilities. But anyway, pretty much you can get a longer health bar, but you don't get the feeling that you get like the uber badass of the other video games you can, like later in the game, like other games that you collect powers in. But even very late in the game, if someone throws a grenade at you when you're not looking at you, you'll respawn in a Vita chamber. And the Vita chambers, I kind of have a strange complaint about those because they kind of make the game too easy.
I thought you sucked at this game.
I won't deny that I'm bad at video games, but when you're surrounded by a group of enemies and you die, and then you instantly come back and there's the enemies still there at the same pretty much part or same levels as when you left them, it kind of, I don't know, adds to the tediousness of the game. I would prefer an actual checkpoint system where if you die, you had to fight your way back to where you started from. I don't know, that sounds like an odd complaint. Anyway, another thing I didn't like about the game was, the reason I was offended the first time I played through the game was what I thought the message of the game was, of the narrative. The main bad guy, supposedly bad guy, for the most part of the game was Andrew Ryan, and his message was pretty much social Darwinism. The rich are rich because they deserve to be rich, unless they're being victimized by the poor, and people are either leeches or if they need help, they're just leeches trying to leech off people. And it's like, sometimes people need help, and there's nothing wrong with helping people. But since the main bad guy was like that, I thought the message of the game was the complete opposite. But from what I can tell, what the message I got out of the game was that the people that have extreme political leanings are the ones that are more easily to exploit. And another reason I got offended the first time I played it was, and I'm still kind of about it, is that when you get almost like 3/4 of the way through the game, it's kind of revealed, a spoiler, I won't really get into it because it is kind of a neat thing to say, but he gets onto you for just following instructions, and he's berating you. Oh, you're just a slave following, doing the marching little step, just doing what you're told, but there's no decision to make other than to get to that point. If there was like some kind of, maybe I missed it, maybe it's in the radio descriptions or something, of doing something else before you get to that point, then I would say, okay, ooh, that was clever that you followed the lockstep and all the instructions exactly what you're told, and you're just following instructions. But no, he berates you for following instructions when basically all you're doing is playing the game. So shame on you for playing this game, even though if you want to play this game, you're going to be berated for basically playing the game. And I did not say that very well. Yeah, basically it's a linear game getting onto you for playing it linearly. It's like, and the little sisters, there is a morality choice whether you want to save them or you want to harvest their atom so you get more powers. There's like a 10-second cutscene at the very end of the game whether you're gonna be the good guy who rescued all the little sisters, or there's a nuclear submarine and you're pretty much gonna destroy the whole Earth because you're the bad guy, I guess. It just doesn't make any sense.
So what do you like about it?
What I did like about the game, though, was the balance of the gunplay and the genetic powers that you had to deal with. It was kind of interesting. A lot of video games don't really do that. Like with this recently game, Destiny. Yeah, there's guns and there's powers, but the powers in Destiny is like throw a grenade. Woohoo! You can force push or whatever. But in Bioshock, there's all kinds of different powers. There's lightning, there's fire, there's telekinesis. There's all kinds of different powers you can unlock, and it's really interesting. Just wish there was more defensive powers. Another thing I liked about the game was that I really liked the hacking minigame.
Really? A lot of other people didn't like that part.
I'm not a lot of people, but basically, I'm sure you've heard of this, but you had to get there's lines, pipe sections that you had to turn the pipes and find the connecting route to point A to point B before the timer runs out on the pipes. But I always thought it was kind of fun connecting the dots, the little puzzle game there. I kind of wish there was a little more variety in them. But yeah, basically every once in a while you get a broken pipe or something like that. But yeah, it was kind of fun. I don't know. It's a weird thought. But I know I'm bitching a lot about this game, but it's not a bad game to play. So having a kind of hard time putting a number on it because the gameplay itself is good. It's just the story is not. I'm not real sold on the story aspects of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and rate it a 3 out of 5.
That seems like an awfully low score.
Well, on my grading scale, a 3 out of 5 is about mid-range. Like I said, the game aspects of it is very functional. The different abilities you unlock and various weapons you use are all good. Could use a little bit more variety in the enemy types, but they're all functionable. It's just the story is a little more out there than I want to deal with. And recording this video, I noticed I need a lot more practice doing videos like this. Yeah, I am not satisfied with the way this video is working out, but I'm sure I'll get better with practice. Thanks for watching. I'm not going to quite reveal what next week's the first weekend of Monday review is going to be like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave those secret and like leave hints in my from now on. I'm not going to say, "Ooh, watch out for this review that I'm going to do next week" or whatever. I'm just gonna say what I'm gonna say, and I am rambling. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this short, and have a good evening. Thanks for watching this long. I'm pretty sure you're gonna say how much I suck in the video comments. Have a good evening.